Hey guys, and welcome back to Pro Speed Baseball. Now today we have Giancarlo Stanton, and we have gotten an absolute ton of requests to do a swing analysis on him. So we figured since he went ahead and won the home run derby this year, that we'd go ahead and do a full swing analysis on him and put him up against every position in the pro swing system. So the cool thing that you guys can take home from this analysis today is some things from Stanton's swing, and see that you don't exactly have to look like any particular person or any other particular hitter to be extremely efficient in your own swing. So I'm excited to bring you guys today's video and the 2016 Home Run Derby champion. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we're going to take Stanton through the entire pro swing system. So we're just going to hit these checkpoints one by one. You're going to see very cool thing on how the system that we built isn't a particular swing to make any one person look a certain way. It's all about getting in the right positions and then making sure that we're fitting somewhere within the right parameters with those positions. So we can take Giancarlo's swing and put it directly up against this. So we're going to start off with the first phase of the pro swing system. That is just getting into a good setup. So some of the key checkpoints of the pro setup, the first one we have is what we call a vertical ankle line, and that's in our setup, making sure that we have it's just a line that we draw straight up out of the ankle, making sure that we have enough space between the torso and this line. So there's plenty of space in between there. We can see that's going to leave him plenty of room to get set and really use his body efficiently. Now the other big checkpoint for the pro setup is that our hands get started in the right position and they stay in front of our vertical toe line. So I'm sure any of you guys following the hitting system are going to know what the vertical toe line is, and that's just simply a line we draw straight up out of our back toe, straight up through the ground, 90-degree angle, and we can see here in his setup, his hands stay well in front of that vertical toe line here in the setup, really nicely. So Giancarlo has a pretty unique swing in relationship to other really good high-level hitters. We'll go over that here in a little bit, but we're going to see that these same parameters taught in the system you'll see exactly in his swing. And the last big checkpoint that you're going to want to look for, in your setup or in his setup, is that our hands are about around our shoulder height, somewhere right around in there. They can be a little higher, a little lower, and that they are starting somewhere around our shoulder. So this can be anywhere from right in front of our shoulder to just a little bit behind our shoulder, somewhere around there, as long as we get into the proper speed load checkpoint. So let's go ahead and take him into his load. One little quick thing I want to point out, we'll get to that when we get into the stride, is whenever we get into our load stride, what we're going to do is we're going to pause him right here in his full load. We'll talk about that stride here in a minute, and let's go ahead and pause him down here on the other side as well. So we're going to go ahead, got a little ahead there, let's back him up. As soon as he gets to the end of his load stride, which is about when that foot hits, we can start to see the second two phases of the hitting system, and that is the speed load and the pro stride. So the parameters we're looking for in the speed load is that our hands are now behind our shoulders from the face-on view. So the first checkpoint we want to make sure is that we get enough separation between our hands and our body, and our hands going back. So we can clearly see if we mark Stanton's hands and then we also mark his shoulder, we can clearly see that his hands have gone behind his shoulder, and he's done that very nicely. So the second checkpoint in the speed load is making sure that our hands are still around that shoulder height. So if we draw a line right through his shoulder sockets, we can see that his hands are still right around that same shoulder height. This is where we are most powerful and can throw our hands in the most efficient and powerful manner towards the ball. So our third and final checkpoint for the speed load comes from the down the line view, is where we draw our vertical toe line, and we want to make sure that our hands at the end of the load are still in front of the vertical toe line. So we draw that same line straight up out of his toes, out of his back toes, straight up, and we can see that even though Carlos is hiding his hands a little bit from the pitcher, which we don't think it is to be the most ideal of situations, his hands are still in front of the vertical toe line. This is very similar to and this is where we see Giancarlo being a little bit less than efficient. This is probably where he's hurting his average a little bit. Now his average this year isn't too great, but he's done pretty good because everything else that he does in his swing is extremely efficient. So Giancarlo hit these speed load checkpoints extremely well, hands at shoulder height, behind the shoulder from the face-on view, and in front of the vertical toe line. Now if we go ahead and back him up into his pro setup again, so into his setup here, and then what I want to do is we're gonna go into the third phase of the system, which is the pro stride, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark his front foot so we can see about how far he strides. So in the pro swing system, we can stride pretty much however we really want to, as long as we're maintaining these parameters. So we'll go ahead and take him, and we can see that he does something a little bit different with a little bit of a toe tap here. This might be something he goes back and forth on, but we can also see, let's go ahead and take him into his stride, that he has gained a slight amount of ground from his original start point. So when his foot gets down, we can see this first X we drew is where his foot started, and now his foot has gained a little bit of ground. Very efficient stride as far as where his foot started from. Ideally, we wouldn't add the extra movement with the step going back. However, this is something that he most likely does for timing purposes in his own swing, yet it still gets him into an extremely efficient strided position. Now I would say the only other point in his swing where he could be just a little bit better, let's go ahead and take him from the down the line view all the way until his front foot gets to contact with the ground. What we're going to see here is if we draw a line down his toes, what we're going to see here, what we don't particularly agree on, is getting these feet closed off. So when you're 6'5", 6'6", whatever Giancarlo is, and he's 260, he's going to be able to get away with a little bit of this stuff. But if our feet are closed off to our center field line, you can see with the line here off the hitting mat that he's hitting how closed off he is. If we were to continue this line, these lines would obviously intersect. We can see how closed off he is. When we close our feet off, we close our hips off. So this is going to be a pretty big power leak if we're not 6'6", 240 and just extremely strong. So that would be something that be a good transition for him to make in the future. But when you're that strong and you're that efficient with everything else, you can get away with a little bit of that stuff. But for you guys at home, getting these feet into a more square position would be a little bit more ideal. Now let's go ahead and get into the fun stuff. So we're going to go ahead and get into the next section of the pro swing system. That is bat lag, and that is simply the position that's created as we are taking our hands to the ball from the load stride position. So we can clearly see that Giancarlo gets into a very, very powerful bat lag position. I mean, pretty much above average here. We'll go ahead and take him into about the same place on each one of these. So we're missing a little bit of a frame there. Now, the parameters for bat lag are, what we want to do is we want to make sure that as our hands are going out to the ball, that our bat is staying in front of or behind our vertical toe line. So you can see, like we said, we're missing a little bit of a frame here in this down the line view, but you can see as his hands are starting to go out to the ball, this bat is now lagged behind his vertical toe line as they're going forward. And then we can see from the face-on view, he's created a very nice sharp angle of bat lag, getting ready to release that as he's about to go into the next section of the hitting system, which is the straight arm release. And this is where the magic happens. We have to get into a very efficient bat lag position to be efficient with speed and consistency up at the plate. Now, to do this, we need to release the bat properly, and this is something Giancarlo does very, very well. So if we go ahead and take him into contact over here from the face-on view, you're going to see him get into a beautiful forward shoulder tilt position. So if you haven't seen the forward shoulder tilt video in the straight arm release section of the hitting system, that is an extremely important video to be very familiar with, because this is a very high level position that you're going to see your most powerful and consistent hitters get into. And one of the big keys to getting into this position is something that we talk about a lot in the system, and we've gotten a lot of the videos on YouTube as well about taking your hands out to the ball. So this is where we get into some of the biomechanics we use in the hitting system, and we can see as Giancarlo is taking his hands out to the ball, he is undoubtedly getting his hands off of his body. So one of the biomechanical things that we can look at is his elbow position. Let's go ahead and zoom in here. We can see if we zoom on in, the amount of space between Giancarlo's elbow and his side right here. He is getting his arms off his body out and towards the ball. His hands are traveling out towards this ball, and the way we know that through biomechanics is very simple. The further our hands travel away from our body, the further our elbow has to travel away from our body, and vice versa. If our hands were to be quote unquote inside the ball or staying in tight with the body, the hands would have to be closer to the body. This would bring the elbow closer to the body. So this is one of the reasons why Giancarlo is so powerful, is because he is utilizing every inch of his limbs by getting his hands going out to the ball. So it's almost like he's trying to hit his hands with that ball, and that's letting his hands travel out there. And this is a very easy telltale sign of how good he is at this and why he is so powerful going into his straight arm release. So by creating the right amount of bat lag and getting the hands out to the ball, this is going to allow him to get into what we call the straight arm release in the system. We'll go ahead and take him into the straight arm release here. And this is about when both arms get fully straight and the bat starts to split the forearms in two. So it might be just a hair before this, right around in here. We can see that he has still maintained some forward shoulder tilt if we draw a line through those shoulder sockets, and both arms are beginning to get fully straightened out, and he's in a beautiful straight arm release position. So he's gone from a lag position, a beautiful bat lag position, all the way into that straight arm release very, very efficiently. So if you know the checkpoints in our straight arm release checkpoints video, you know that we're going to want both arms dead straight, and we're going to want our chest and bat to be pointing relatively off towards our opposite field. So you can see here from the down the line view, if we were to draw a line straight off of Giancarlo's chest, it would be pointing off towards his opposite field in that direction. So you can think maybe a little bit right of second base, and also his bat is also pointing a little bit to the right of second base at full release. So this is when both of his arms are dead straight and chest and bat are all pointing into that opposite field territory. So the introduction to the straight arm release goes over these checkpoints very thoroughly. Go ahead and check those out if you're struggling with those. We got a lot of great drills in that section to get us from that bat lag into that beautiful release position. The same exact release you're seeing out of Stanton's swing right here. So the last and final piece of the system is getting into the pro finish. Let's go ahead and take him into the finish on both sides. He had a little bit of an off balance finish here on the right. This is a very hard view to get on with most big league guys, this down the line view, but we can see he's hitting all the pro finish checkpoints beautifully. He's got a dead straight front leg, nice flexion in his back leg. He's nice and up off of his heel. His ankle's not being lazy and staying down. We have some great videos on the backside rotation in the specialty section in the hitting system as well. And one of the good checkpoints here is that his head is definitely in between his stance. He's not leaning way back, and he's also not tilted way forward going to the ball. He's let that ball travel into him, into his speed, and then from down the line we get a little bit of a view of his follow through, where we can start to see some of the bottom of his shoe here in the down the line view, and this shows us that his foot has rotated and his hips have gotten very good into his swing. So you can see that actually as he's going to swing this bat. If we go ahead and play him forward right here, we can watch his back foot and see that back foot fire on through. So, and we also have a great video called Use Your Hips, Backside Rotation, Use Your Hips in the specialty section that really shows you how to use that back foot to utilize the hips for power and speed in the swing, and it's got a great drill in that video as well. So if you were to ask me what would be the most powerful move in Giancarlo's swing as far as why he is such a powerful hitter, we definitely would have to hone in on his transition and how he takes his hands to the ball and how lengthy he gets with those hands and arms off the ball and how athletic this move is as he lets those hands fly off the body. That's going to allow you to get your most amount of leverage and speed in the swing. So if you take anything from his swing, take getting those hands and arms off the body and utilize everything you have to maximize your efficiency through the ball. And if you're going to do that, make sure you do it right and make sure you're creating the right amount of bat lag and getting into a very good straight arm release. So Giancarlo Stanton matching up pretty darn well with the pro swing system. Very good stuff you can learn from his swing. If you saw some stuff in this analysis that you think is going to be able to help you out with your own swing, go ahead and check out the videos mentioned in the analysis, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Now, for those of you joining us on YouTube, if you're looking to get your swing in the most powerful and efficient positions possible, you can check out our free lessons over at ProSpeedBaseball.com and the ProSpeed hitting system. And if you're tired of wasting practice time and not knowing exactly what to work on, check out our unlimited online review coaching program, where you have full-time professional instructor work with you one-on-one through video analysis to guide you step by step so that you can maximize your potential by maximizing your practice time. Now, for more info on the hitting system and the coaching program, click on the links that are popping up in the screen right now or in the description below. Thanks again for watching, guys. Good luck with your swings, good luck with your games, and we'll see you guys soon. These are all symptoms to improper sequencing in the swing and not getting the right amount of extension at the right time, or where we want to make contact with the ball in relationship to where we want to be extended after contact. And that's the key one. We do want to be extended after contact. Just before full release is when we're going to get maximum velocity on that object. So in a baseball swing, so if we go into contact and we make contact and then we have full release, then we're going to be maximizing our speed into the ball. So that all you have to do is set up the drill properly, make swings, and you're going to start syncing up your swing right away. And that's exactly what this drill is going to do. It's going to help us learn the proper motions to hit the ball correctly. So if I put a digital tee here where we'd want to make contact with the ball, ideally when we're practicing off the tee or we're hitting in the game, we're going to load stride here. You're going to see me get into contact here, and then if I'm still swinging out to this ball in front of me,